It was supposed to be the perfect escape, a sleek, ultra-modern Airbnb in the heart of the city. The place was everything I had imagined: floor-to-ceiling windows with panoramic views, state-of-the-art technology at every corner, and a luxurious ambiance that made me feel like I was living in a dream. My partner and I had been looking forward to this trip for months, a chance to unwind and indulge in a bit of urban luxury. At first, everything was as amazing as the listing promised. The smart home system was beyond impressive: voice-controlled lights, climate control, and even a digital assistant that greeted us by name the moment we walked in. We spent the first night lounging in the living room, marveling at how effortlessly everything worked. But by the second day, I started to notice things that didn't seem right. It began with the lights. They'd flicker on their own, dimming and brightening without any command from us. My partner brushed it off as a glitch, but I felt a nagging sense of unease. Then, the thermostat would change settings by itself, making the temperature uncomfortably cold. At first, we joked about the place being haunted by a tech-savvy ghost, but the more it happened, the less funny it became. That night, I woke up to the sound of something moving in the kitchen. Groggy and disoriented, I dismissed it as a figment of my imagination and tried to go back to sleep. But when I heard the noise again, louder this time, I nudged my partner awake, and we both went to investigate. The kitchen was empty, but the refrigerator door was wide open, and the smart fridge's screen was displaying an error message we'd never seen before. The next morning, I decided to do some digging. I examined the smart devices more closely, trying to figure out what was causing the malfunctions. That's when I noticed the first camera, embedded in what appeared to be a harmless, decorative plant in the corner of the living room. My stomach dropped as I realized that it wasn't just the plant. There were tiny lenses hidden in the clock, the smoke detector, even in the bathroom mirror. Panic set in as I rushed to check my phone, only to find that all our messages to the host had gone unanswered. I tried to open the front door, but it wouldn't budge. Neither would the windows. It was as if the entire place had locked itself down, trapping us inside. My partner was just as frantic, trying to break the glass, but it was reinforced, unyielding. We spent the night huddled together, every sound amplified by our fear. By morning, we were exhausted, both physically and mentally. But when I reached for my phone again, I found a new notification, an email from an unknown sender. My hands trembled as I opened it, and my blood ran cold when I saw the attached video files. It was footage of us, every moment from the time we'd checked in, captured in excruciating detail. Our conversations, our laughter, even our most private moments had been recorded. At the end of the video was a single line of text: "You were always part of the show." We left everything behind, the luggage, the car, even our IDs, and fled the building as soon as the doors unlocked at checkout time. I don't know who was behind it, and I don't want to know. All I can do is try to forget the feeling of being watched, the violation of our privacy, and the knowledge that somewhere out there, our lives had been turned into someone else's twisted entertainment. I booked a secluded cabin on Airbnb, seeking a peaceful weekend away from the hustle and bustle of daily life. The listing boasted rustic charm, scenic views, and most importantly, total privacy. Exactly what I needed. When I arrived, the cabin seemed perfect. Nestled deep in the woods, it was everything I had hoped for. The air was crisp, the trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the cabin itself exuded a cozy, inviting atmosphere. After settling in, I spent the evening unwinding, enjoying the solitude. As night fell, I lit a fire in the fireplace, poured myself a glass of wine, and sank into a plush armchair with a book. The quiet was soothing, the kind of quiet that you can only find far from civilization. But as the hours passed, the atmosphere began to shift. It started with small things, barely noticeable at first. I caught a faint whiff of cologne, a scent that was distinctly not mine. I shrugged it off, attributing it to lingering smells from a previous guest. Yet, it gnawed at me. the scent too fresh to be weeks or even days old. Later, when I got up to grab a snack, I noticed a dish on the kitchen counter that I was sure I hadn't used. My mind raced, trying to remember if I had absent-mindedly placed it there, but I was certain I hadn't. Unease began to creep in, but I convinced myself that I must have just forgotten. As the night grew darker, the unsettling feeling intensified. I started hearing faint noises, soft creaks, and the occasional thud, as if something was moving in the attic above me. The first few times, I dismissed it as the house settling, or perhaps an animal outside, but the noises persisted, growing more frequent and distinct, as though someone, or something, was up there, deliberately making its presence known. I decided to call the host, hoping for reassurance. They answered promptly, their voice calm and friendly. They assured me that the cabin was completely private and that I was the only guest staying there. They even joked that the old cabin could be a bit noisy at night due to its age. I tried to laugh along, but the unease in my chest only deepened. After hanging up, the noises grew louder, almost as if the unseen presence was reacting to my call. Every creak and thud seemed deliberate, each one sending a shiver down my spine. I could no longer ignore the sounds or rationalize them away. My mind raced with possibilities. Was it an intruder, or was something more sinister at play? The final straw came when I heard distinct footsteps above me, slow and deliberate, pacing back and forth. My heart pounded as I grabbed a flashlight and made my way to the attic door. The air was thick with tension as I hesitated, hand trembling as I reached for the doorknob. Summoning all my courage, I yanked the door open and shone the light inside. The attic was empty, no sign of anyone or anything. But the unsettling feeling didn't dissipate. Instead, it grew stronger, as if the cabin itself was alive, watching me, waiting for something. I bolted downstairs, packed my bags in record time, and fled the cabin, leaving the eerie quiet behind me. As I drove away, the cabin's dark silhouette vanished in the rearview mirror, but the sense of unease stayed with me. Later, I found out that the original owner of the cabin had vanished under mysterious circumstances years ago. Some say he never truly left, his presence lingering in the cabin, waiting for someone to join him. I'd always been drawn to historic homes, and when I found a charming antique house available for a weekend retreat on Airbnb, I couldn't resist. The listing boasted old-world allure and timeless elegance, nestled in a picturesque part of town. The host, an elderly man with a warm but cryptic smile, mentioned in passing that the house had character and to not be alarmed by any strange occurrences. I took it as an eccentric touch to the vintage appeal and brushed it off as harmless charm. The first night was serene. The creaks and groans of the old house were to be expected, and the antique furniture added to the atmosphere of a bygone era. I settled in with a good book, and though there was an odd sound now and then, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But as the second night approached, the atmosphere began to shift. The first sign was the sound of footsteps echoing in the hallway outside my room. I assumed it was the house settling, perhaps a draft causing the doors to creak. Yet as the hours passed, the noises grew more distinct. Footsteps pacing, doors opening and closing, and faint whispers in a language I didn't recognize. The whispers seemed to come from nowhere, drifting through the air like a forgotten memory. I lay awake in bed, my heart racing, trying to make sense of it. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, until I could almost hear them forming words. When I finally gathered the courage to get up and investigate, the hallway was empty, and the sounds abruptly stopped. The next morning, I hoped that a full night's sleep would calm my nerves and provide clarity. However, when I entered the kitchen, I was greeted by an unsettling sight. Wet towels were draped over the back of a chair, a half-eaten meal was left on the dining table, and the bed in the guest room, which I had not used, appeared to have been slept in recently. The sight of the disheveled bed and leftover food made my stomach drop. I called the host, my voice trembling as I described the strange occurrences and the evidence of someone else's presence. He assured me that I was the only guest currently staying at the house and insisted that no one else had been there. His calm demeanor did little to reassure me, and I felt a growing sense of dread. Determined to get to the bottom of it, I searched the house for any clues but found nothing. The host's explanations seemed increasingly implausible, and the eerie feeling of being watched lingered. I decided to cut my stay short and checked out early, leaving behind the half-used meal and the wet towels. As I drove away from the house, I glanced back through the rearview mirror. The old home stood silent and still, its secrets hidden behind the worn facade. I never got an explanation for the phantom guest or the inexplicable occurrences. All I had was the haunting memory of a place that seemed to hold onto the echoes of its past, a reminder that some things are better left unexplored.